Great.
All right, this is Rob Gear. I'd like to call to order the Open Space regular meeting of the Town of Dayton Committee, Open Space Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th. We're calling this meeting to order at 5:11 p.m. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Before we begin, a point of order. Under call to order, we should introduce ourselves, just for the record.
We do, that is actually our next item of business.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We got this.
I don't know if closed captions are turned on though. I'm having issue.
Captions, let's see, I saw caption settings.
I mean, it says maybe I think you have to turn it on your end, maybe, because it says caption language. Show captions. Let's see. Okay, now it's on. Sorry.
Closed
Okay.
captions, great.
We're all set up now.
Thank you.
Robert Gear, Dayton resident, current committee member.
Danica Belknap, clerk, Dayton resident.
Good evening, Leonard Hull, Dayton resident.
Jonathan Gale, ADA coordinator and Dayton resident.
All right. Next, we've got new business. Just as a point of order and clarification, I'm standing in to temporarily run this meeting until we appoint a new chair. So first order of new business is actually to discuss, review, and act upon appointing a new chair.
So my feeling is, first of all, FYI for all of us, we've been without a chair for a couple of meetings now. This is the second formal meeting we have been without a chair because of the resignation of our prior chair, who I know we all thank very much for his service and time. We have 4 members here, where we will be a committee of 5. And I think because we have 4 members here, at this point, we should go ahead and nominate a person to be chair because we need to move forward and there's business to be taken care of. So having said that, I will recommend that, I will make a motion that we nominate Robbie as the chair of the Open Space Committee.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
2 seconds. So we have a second and a third.
I believe I can call for a vote, but I have to abstain from voting on the matter.
That is correct.
Is there a vote? Any ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So
Any
it's
nays?
unanimous, 3-0. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, thank you.
Yay.
All right, I did want to say that I want to commit to this committee that I promise to remain dedicated to our projects, delegate important tasks to others, recognize the hidden strengths of others, be a people person who likes to work with the group, keep the group focused, interpret the good ideas of others, and remain organized. So I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you much.
Thank you. All right, next order of business. We do have to discuss, review, and act. We have a volunteer application from Mr. Herb Murray. I would like to start by saying that the application was forwarded by Leanne Kerwin from the town. Unfortunately, the application is incomplete. And so I'm not sure what we have to go on here. When I read further for applying, preserving culture and history, I very much recognize and understand the value of that, very much, especially in the town of Dayton and in this small town. But just kind of to comment on what open space is and what we're here to do, I would be more interested in seeing a more complete application for the record.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Hull.
it might be wise to, when we're going to look at an application, that we require the applicant to be present at the meeting. So that this way here, I mean, we have two choices. We can send this application back and say it's incomplete, or we can bring that gentleman into our next meeting and interview him and fill in the pieces that way.
So,
I would like to make a motion to table item 4B to the next meeting. Obviously, the motion would need a second, and then we could have discussion.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
The discussion to me would be to ask the chairperson to directly contact the applicant by email and if possible by telephone, and convey to the applicant that we need number one, we need a more complete application submitted in advance of the next meeting, and that number two, assuming we receive that more complete application, we would like the applicant to appear in person for an interview, so we can discuss, as we always do, to hear from the applicant why that person is interested in being on the committee and answering questions that we might have.
Understood. For the record, my discussion point would just be that I did recreate the steps that the volunteer would have to take in order to submit an application. And it is clear on the town's website that these items that are not complete are required. And then once the committee receives the application, we then, the chair invites that person immediately to the next meeting so that we could have that moment of clarification would be provided too. So I can see where both ends would actually meet.
Absolutely.
So was the applicant informed of this?
Negative.
The applicant
Okay.
wasn't
Yeah, we did not-
informed, and we didn't have a chair either
Okay,
to inform the applicant of
So-
anything. So
To do an
we couldn't
official
conduct any business.
invitation.
we have a motion.
We do have a motion on the floor. We have a second. I'd like to call for a vote unless there's any other discussion. Okay. All the ayes?
Aye.
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 Now-
Unanimous.
I do have a question in regards to this. We have an applicant. Does that mean application process is closed?
My interpretation would be no.
Yeah.
Because number one, we haven't even received a completed application from this applicant. And number two, even if we have more than one applicant, as long as the position is still, or the seat is still open, we could, until we've conducted any interviews, we could receive 10 applications.
But, and then second to that, if I may, real quick, it then still has to sit before the town select.
Correct.
It has to sit for, so
Exactly.
and then until that point with that person then, so I think technically the position would be open
Correct.
by definition.
Well,
Vacant.
Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
sir. Recognize.
we can post a vacancy, and we can have a deadline. And to prevent some confusion, which I'm well aware is happening with another board that didn't do this, it's probably wise to, since it is open, to officially declare it through vote that it is open, and set a date and time when all applications must be in to Karen Brady, because she's the head of HR.
Okay.
And then all applications that come in during that time would be reviewed and interviews would take place.
Would it be fair to say that it could be modeled as the way our current town moderator is looking for a new finance committee?
Correct.
Okay.
You know, you'd be opening it probably tomorrow. And you would close it on a date that this board mutually agrees, obviously before the meeting, before our next meeting. But then all the applications would be in. And this would prevent people from, after the fact, submitting an application and then we having really no time to review it before we would make a decision.
I hear discussion on the floor. Is there anything we'd like to act on?
The only discussion that I would add to that, and I have with that, is in terms of the application being closed. I would suggest that the applications, that any applications that are to be submitted to be reviewed by our next meeting date. And that's, I want to be clear on how I'm saying this. By our next meeting date of, whatever that date might be, must be submitted prior to, let's say 7 days prior to, for example. Okay, to be considered for the applicant to be considered for an interview at that meeting, period. I wouldn't say closed. I don't like the term closed, because if we don't get any applicants, people may think, or if the applicant currently out there doesn't submit a completed application, people may think that's it, end of story. So rather than say closed, I'd rather say to be considered for our meeting of June, whatever, must be submitted by. Applicants submitted after that date will only be considered for the July meeting, assuming the position has not been filled. Am I making sense?
Yes.
I agree with that. Our only issue is that because we're kind of off schedule now, our next meeting is only 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
So that doesn't give much time.
No, it doesn't, but at least I agree with you on that. I don't know, I mean, we can still do the 7 days, we can change it to 5 days for now. We could even change it to 9 days. So that it's that following Monday, a week from this Monday, for example.
Does Open Space have their own Facebook page?
We do not.
We do not yet.
So
That's
you would
something-
need to reach out to Karen or Leanne to put as a posting, I'm saying a vacancy
Yeah.
posting out on the Facebook. Because that's really the only way the town has. You can also post something out on the bulletin board, but so the residents know that we're looking for someone. Because one of the things that happens, once it goes on Facebook, then we all can share it on our own Facebook pages and some of the other Facebook pages that are out there. So that this way here, the community is fully aware.
And along those lines, Mr. Chairman, you can be given access to an open space page or to create an open space page on the town's website, so that you, as the chairperson, would be the administrator of that page on our town's website to post meeting announcements, to
Understood.
post minutes, to post videos, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
So all that goes through Leanne. And then what happens is if there's anything about it, she and I would talk. We generally don't have to, only because of the ADA component.
Understood.
So if you want, I can repeat the motion the way the way this should be worded to go on Facebook, or I can do that with you after the fact.
Let's go ahead and do it for the record now. Might as well.
Please.
Okay. So my motion by Jonathan Gale would be that we invite all interested applicants who would like to potentially be a member of the Open Space Committee apply for a seat on Open Space Committee by, and what's the day, a week from, when's our next
May
meeting?
29th, 2024 would technically be 7 days before our next regularly scheduled meeting if we do elect to do it on.
By May 29th,
Okay.
2024 at 5 PM by visiting the town's website and filling a completed volunteer application form.
Is that,
All applicants who submit their completed application by that date will be invited to join us at our next open space meeting. If the position remains available after our next meeting, we will repost the announcement for our following meeting.
when is our next meeting?
June 1st.
June 5th would
Oh,
be the
okay.
first Wednesday of the month,
Sorry, yeah, I don't know why I was thinking June
Okay.
5th.
technically. I mean, it is on the agenda to, we voted on that, obviously, towards the
Yep.
end of the meeting, but yeah, I mean, that would
Yes.
be,
So that's my motion.
I'll second that.
any discussion? During the session, may I repeat this back to you, Mr. Jonathan? Just,
Absolutely.
all right, the motion reads, we invite all interested applicants who would like to join the Open Space Committee to apply for a seat on the Open Space Committee by May 29, 2024 at 5 p.m. by visiting the town website and fill out a completed form. All applicants who submit a completed application will be invited to join us at our next Open Space Committee meeting. Insert that date here when we vote on it at the end of the meeting, obviously. Tentatively at this point, it is May 29th, 2024, correct? That was the motion?
Yes.
All right. If this position is still open, we will then repost. Do I have that correct?
Correct.
Let's call for a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
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 All right, it's unanimous, the motion passes. I will follow up with Leanne first thing tomorrow morning.
Great. And keep in mind, since you're new to this, town hall is closed on Fridays.
Yes, sir. I had my alert every Friday morning goes off, town hall closed today. But surprisingly enough, I won't say any names, you can get a response from some of those dedicated people.
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right, following up, I'm sorry, I'm keeping my notes and the meeting moving forward. We're gonna, next item of business is to discuss, review, and act the Open Space Committee frequency of meetings.
Mr. Chairman, one of the questions, based on the fact, I guess this meeting will be ending at 6 p.m., is how long do we intend to meet? 2 hours on a normal basis, unlimited? Because that will obviously play a role in how many meetings we have. If we're gonna limit to 2 hours, then
I agree.
that may or may accomplish what we need to get done. One of the concerns that I have is, I've heard there's a lot of work in structurally organizing this committee, it appears. When I asked the question about your policy manual, I mean, just starting there is a great deal of work. I see that, the open space recreation plan, and knowing what the planning board said the other night in their joint meeting with conservation, and how they want to work closely with open space. That is going to take up a lot of time planning and meeting with them. So I'd be curious of how the board feels about how much time all of us want to commit to this, because obviously we have families, we have jobs.
Yeah. I think, if I may jump in, thank you for that. I believe that those are all fantastic points and concerns as well. It is my goal to not just remain working within this group, but also to reach out. My next point of intention is to be present tomorrow night at the Community Preservation Committee meeting, annual open town hall, to figure out how all of these committees within town may overlap. For example, I believe there was an organization, a committee maybe that did a cleanup day that started over in front of the 1712 restaurant. And it just so happens that cleanup days actually fall under open space. Could fall under open space. Yeah, so those are opportunities where Dayton has excelled and accomplished things on this bucket list we've got here that we didn't know we had, but we do. So I'd like to be able to, find out where we can get credit for things that are done, and find out where we also need to meet in the middle on some of these things. And I think that it's by showing up at, or logging into Conservation Commission, planning, zoning. I also logged into the the
DIC.
Yeah, thank you. Surprised Dan Higgins one night, because I just was curious what the purpose of that meeting was to do, what was their boundaries and what were their lines. And so it would be, it is my goal to be more present within the other committees as it relates to open space, so that we can see how we can work together also.
One of the things that was mentioned at that joint meeting was the desire that open space and park and rec work closer together in establishing more passive and active recreational sites. And in speaking to Mr. Smith from CPC, he said that CPC does allow funding for recreational projects, such as acquiring land for recreational purposes. Recreation would be, under the law, the vehicle for the transfer of money from CPC. And what open space would do is a lot of the legwork of, meeting with either private owners of land that might want to work out a deal with the town, or reaching out to the treasurer, Paul Reynolds, who has several pieces of land that have taken under tax title or abandonment. The land is available, and how we could make that work. And what would be the cost? And the cost would be paid by CPC. Park and Rec would use it, we would
We would do the legwork.
do the
We
legwork.
can also look at grants for that.
Yeah.
And yes, one of the things that Jeff Cavallo stressed, and he's the real mover of coordinating departments, is manpower, volunteer manpower. Well, you know what I'm saying?
Am I hearing you saying that he's good at rallying that?
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one who
His planning,
started
correct?
it. Yes, he's the chairman of the planning. He's the one who called that meeting, and open space will be invited to the next one
Fantastic.
as well. He wants to involve Park and Rec. Conservation was there, that's why we reviewed your plan. Also, we developed on the Board of Selectmen side a wonderful relationship with Lizette Gonzalez. And we have Danica right here. And creating that circuit partnership to help us would be huge.
I think the Serpent partnership is gonna be really big, in terms of the plans that people have already worked on through Serpent.
Yeah.
And what they represent to the town and how it's gonna help us shape the growth as well with our open space. Also looking at ways to combine open space pieces of land in town or existing parcels of land that are open space right now, identified as open space, which will allow us, and I know people hate to hear this sometimes, public, which allows us to develop the types of housing that we need to bring into the town, along with encouraging recreational activities, et cetera, because we have to consider all of that in the plan. The other thing that I'm gonna say, and I think this is going back to what you were talking about a couple minutes ago, a little bit, when you talked about, for example, the cleanup day. And I didn't realize until you just said that that's one of the things open space
I didn't either.
can help manage is
Absolutely.
the cleanup, which I think is wonderful. And the reason I'm saying that I think it's great is
Yes.
what I think we wanna be careful of, and I wanna be careful how I couch this too, because this is gonna sound like it's a slap, and it's not to us. But right now, cleanup days, as I understand it, are organized by one of the town's political parties. Now,
That's correct.
I think it's great, that they organize it, and I wanna be clear, I think it's great that we have a cleanup day.
Oh, better to
I
have it
think-
than not.
But I think it's important for us to recognize that if we're gonna work with that cleanup day and piggyback that cleanup day, it's not gonna be a question of which political side of the world anyone is on, but it's a sponsorship of open space. And if others wanna join in the process, I don't wanna get us to get caught up in anything.
Yeah,
And
I didn't
not
realize it
that
was
yet.
I didn't know it was a
Right, and that's the only-
political.
Right, that's
otherwise
that's been a private thing by one of our political parties in town, which I think is wonderful, as I said, I think, because it needs to be done. I wouldn't care if there were 5 political parties doing it.
Yeah,
But I think we just want to be careful that we don't get caught up in that.
yeah.
And
No, I
get
just happened to
ourselves
see it
associated
in the
with one side or
community,
the other.
so I thought it was a good thing to
Yeah, so
mention it.
just
So-
as an FYI, because we still want to be able to do it,
Yeah,
but now maybe we can take a different approach to it.
certainly,
That's all.
absolutely. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Are the cleanups, is it like a town-sponsored event, or it's
No,
just
it's
a
not.
totally
It's
private?
a totally private,
It's been, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be town sponsored. And we used to work very closely with Highway Department doing it. Mr. Ferry was a huge help, providing bags, and not only that, but going around after and picking up the bags after they were filled. His guys would do that. And it kind of fell apart this year, the coordination of it. And in light of what you're saying, inclusion is very important. And reaching out, there are many segments of the community
And where we've
that want
got,
to be involved.
we have made, and this might be something that we begin as a way to get people to recognize who we are.
Right.
So if we were beginning to potentially put together a cleanup day in September, early fall, if you will, after the summer, and we were to bring in the Cub Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the softball, the baseball, the different clubs in town, different organizations. It's a really good way to really try and mobilize a lot of different groups in town to get some volunteerism for doing this, and it puts open space back on the map.
Right. That is
So-
important.
So I think to get us back on track, the topic at hand is the frequency of meeting, definitely. Although I love the cleanup days. But what I'm hearing out of all of us is that we have a lot of work ahead of
Yes,
us.
we do.
Yeah.
We do. Exciting.
But I also hear that we have people who are professionally, let me rephrase that. We have people who are on the committee, Danica, who in your professional world overlaps with like kind of what we do here, and you have an understanding, a great understanding of the concept of space and recreation and environment. So I want to be very careful if I were to say, yes, I'd love to meet twice a month for 2 hours, but I want to consider that, a portion of your life is already kind of in open space as it relates to maybe an hour a week or however it takes you to log in and read through our emails and our, agendas and the minutes, et cetera. And, I want to be considerate of all of that. So, but I also want to be aggressive also. So I just want to throw that out there. That's my discussion, so.
So our meetings, sorry.
No, it's good. Is there any other discussion?
Our meetings so far have been pretty limited to an hour, and I don't know if I feel like there have been commitments. I don't know if it was maybe because of a former member had another commitment immediately after, or if it was the room availability. Do we know if this room is available?
This
beyond?
room can normally on certain nights, and I'm saying this because when I was trying to book us for today,
Yeah.
normally, for example, this room would have been available tonight for 2 hours. The
Okay.
only reason it's not is because of the special time of the year when FinCom needs to have so many meetings
Yeah. Well, I mean, in our normal slot, this room is available
afterwards for 2
for,
hours.
yeah.
Correct.
5:30 to
yeah.
7:30, we could run 2 hours if we had to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I sort of feel what you're feeling in the sense that sometimes when we really start to get into things and begin to start to try to drag something, into really good conversation and where we're gonna go with it, it's time to end.
Right.
It's exactly what's.
I think there's so much for us to do.
Yes.
We've talked about 4 or 5 areas tonight. If you broke them up in an hour, what's that, 10 minutes in each by the time you get going?
Subsequent, and you can say for the record or not, post Mr. Hull's interview, I went home and I flagged everything that he said he was interested in doing in the community. And I went and figured out how could that fall into an action item. And I found 5 things already that just with the things you mentioned, I don't know if you meant to tap on it, but those are 5 things that we could get going on that are right here that nobody has proposed otherwise, and here you are, So these are all viable things we can start moving on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The other option is subcommittees, as long as it's no more than 2 people. And they could be whenever, informally, wherever.
yeah. I think that we should have, I definitely love the idea of a subcommittee. I think purpose, let's define what our purposes are so that way it's clear what your goal is, right? And that we would come back and report, I say you, that's the proverbial you, forgive me. What you would report back on, be responsible for the bullet point coming back, right? And present to the committee, and we could discuss, review, or act. Would that be fair?
I do.
Okay.
I think the subcommittees can do a lot more work with two of us, sometimes offline, on the phone, back and forth and bring material back to present. And it's more of a chance to get into the weeds. And if you need to put 1 hour aside or 3 hours aside, you're working together to do it.
Okay.
There's too many things for us to get done, honestly.
Yeah, it really is, and considering we're in year 4 of an 8-year plan.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, do I hear any other discussion? Anybody else? Any feelings on the matter? Any facts on the matter?
I guess I would propose, so for example, taking 2 of the things that we talked about tonight. Looking at the plan that Serpent already did and that you worked on with, as well.
Which plan? There were 2,
Are you talking about the conservation?
the conservation or the economic?
The conservation.
Okay.
Economic, I'm keeping aside for now,
Okay.
for a few minutes, for tonight's purposes. But looking at the conversation plan, if you, Danica, do I keep saying your name wrong?
No, well, Danica
Okay.
technically.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Close enough.
If I things come across to me on emails and they don't quite pick it up verbally the way things should sound. And I tend to go with that sometimes, so if I mess it up.
That's okay, you're close enough.
Okay, thanks. So if Danica and Robbie, for example, if the 2 of you, I'm just throwing this out there, could start really getting into the weeds on looking at that report and starting to make the connections with the other committees to put something together for all of us. And as an example, if Leonard and I, Mr. Ho and I, because of the people that we know in town, because of the amount of time we've been here more than anything, started to reach out to the different organizations in town to put together a cleanup day for September, because we have to do that way in advance with the different town officials, with all the different clubs and groups. We could all each of us could bring something back to our next meeting. And we've got something to start to work with. And I think that's how I see us being able to start to get things going.
Can I, just a point of clarification, Mr. Yale, the first committee that you referenced, that Danica and I, as an example, would be how we blend together those bullet points, those action items with which report did you refer to? The conservation, it was
Yeah,
The conservation subdivision,
yes.
it's bylaw, update recommendation, so we have discussed that as a committee, it might have been before you joined the committee.
Okay. No, I'm not questioning the actual report itself, but just that if we have a motion on the floor, would want to know what the subcommittee is responsible for. This is my point, is where I'm
No, you're
getting
right.
to.
And I should have been clear, I just didn't remember that.
Yeah, no, I just,
Because I think that's.
Danica and I would be responsible for, looking through the conservation subdivision bylaw update and seeing how open space relates to that. Is that kind of my understanding? That's where this discussion
To
is going?
start.
Yeah, to start.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course,
to
of course.
start, And,
Yeah.
and where you feel we need to bring in planning or.
Absolutely.
Or Parks and Rec or
CPC.
CPC,
And then,
and really
You-
drilling down on it.
Can I
Yeah.
just respond to that before you move on
Please.
to the next one?
yeah,
My only concern, I see why it would make sense for me to be on that subcommittee. I do worry about like conflict of interest a little bit because it's a work project of mine.
Fair point.
And I'm also like, even though I am a resident in town,
Mhm.
I wouldn't want my role as like being an employee of Serped and in that project to influence our like recommendations
That's a fair
on
point.
behalf of the committee. That's my only hesitation there.
Point well taken.
point taken.
And I don't think any of us ever want to put anyone in the position.
No.
I should
Definitely.
have thought of that, I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's fine.
We can switch some roles here around.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, just, as chair, I definitely would respect if you declined taking up something like that. I would say, though, that part of the influence that you do bring to this committee is because of what I mentioned, your professional role in the world.
Skill set.
Actually, your human skill set does lend yourself to. Now, if you were put in a position where you were having to have an opinion against that report, your employer, for example, I would not want you to be in that role where you would have to speak against
Yeah.
your own employer. Of course, I never want
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
But as somebody is just, from an open space perspective, and we're a non-authoritative body, we just pass an opinion, right? So we're not responsible for a whole heck of a lot. It would just be, I think it would be a professional win for all of us if you were to be willing, somebody in your role, not you, but so to speak, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I'm very involved in that project at Serped, and
knowing
like-
you know that
like
best.
I've already had my say, and I kind of, now at this point, for the recommendations that will be made to update the bylaw, like I want that to come from alternative voices, like how.
Okay,
So
fresh
like
eyes.
if-
So
Yeah, more or less, and like,
Alright.
so I would be happy to participate, and I can like brief this committee on the report, I can share information and like recommendations, best practices, but I would really like to not be the one kind of guiding how we recommend the town move
Okay,
So
forward.
let me ask though, if you were working with Rob with other committees on how to interpret and how to understand,
Yeah,
is that okay for you?
I would be
And
happy to
then-
do that, yeah.
And then if there's certain things that we need to vote on, obviously you would
Yeah,
recuse
I
yourself.
would, yeah.
Mr. Hull would like to be recognized?
I'm sorry?
Thought I saw you raise your hand, did you want to be recognized?
I was going to,
Yeah, I know, Mr. Gill didn't see you.
what he said I totally agree.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Lizette, in every presentation that she does, Serpent is not the end all. They make recommendations.
Absolutely,
They
it's a
are
voice.
trained, but they are recommendations. The residents, the boards, whether it be planning, board of selectmen, even open space.
Yeah.
They take that under advisement and they make policy, they make a determination, the direction they want to go, not Serpent.
Thank you. You said it very well.
I just want to bring recognition to the time, it is
Yeah.
5:48, we still have public input, we may need to, talk about the minutes, would we want to maybe table this discussion, table this
I
till
would-
the next meeting?
Oh,
I'm comfortable, if everyone else is comfortable, just making a motion that we do have these two subcommittees. And that you and Donica reach out or at least get together to begin to, chart the road that you want to go
yeah,
on how to pursue this with other committees. And in the meantime, Mr. Hull and I can begin to put together the resources, the list, the things like that, of the groups that we feel we should be reaching out to.
Okay.
So that at least when we come back to our next meeting, we all have something to show that we're trying to get done, so that we're moving forward at least. I'm just afraid that tabling it doesn't get us any further than we were today.
Mr. Hull?
I see this as two separate motions. I totally agree with Mr. Gale. But we do have an action item, discuss, review, the Dayton Open Space Recreation Plan. And for just the sake of meeting procedure, we could table this for another time. Just to leave it open-ended. Really, for the record, doesn't say what we're gonna do with this.
Correct.
And I don't want it to be caught. So I'd like to make a motion to table, discuss, review current Dayton Open Space and Recreation Plan 2021-28 to the next meeting.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Vote? Aye.
Aye?
hi.
Now,
So we will table the discussion to the next meeting.
and Mr. Gale, as a motion.
And my motion, Jonathan Gale will make a motion that Mr. Hull and I begin pursuing the concept of a fall cleanup, a townwide fall cleanup as a subcommittee. We'll call ourselves the Fall Cleanup Subcommittee. And that at our next meeting, we will begin to bring back to the Open Space Committee ideas and suggestions of what we're beginning to look at for plans and who we're reaching out to.
I'll second that motion. Discussion?
Yeah, can I make a recommendation? So what I see, what we're discussing now is the meeting frequency. I think we could make a motion to decide on meeting frequency. I kind of feel like we're getting a little ahead of ourselves in terms of setting the subcommittees, just because the item that we just tabled to discuss the open space and recreation plan, that was a process that we had started going through the action items in the open space plan. And I feel like that's a conversation that we should discuss before. And I'm not saying I disagree that you should start on planning a cleanup. I think it's an excellent idea, but I do feel that we should kind of finish the discussion of going through the plan and the action items before we kind of move forward with subcommittees and priorities, if that makes sense.
It does.
I wasn't aware that this had been something this has been an ongoing
So I
discussion.
can, I'm happy to do that. I can withdraw my motion. So the motion by Jonathan Gale is made and withdrawn for now.
The chair recognizes the withdrawal. Do I need to act on that? No, that's done, okay.
Sorry to delay things.
No, I think you're right, because actually, we kind of did get ahead of ourselves, because we still hadn't talked about frequency of meeting, we hadn't acted on that, did we?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, we started talking
We
about it, but
discussed, we
never
reviewed,
acted on it.
and, yeah.
So for frequency,
Frequency, so I think, are we comfortable, are we still in discussion mode, correct? Are we comfortable with running a 2-hour meeting on June 5th from 5:30 to 7:30 and seeing, we will obviously have this motion that's been tabled and approved, which is the open space committee plan, which is section 9 is where the bullet points start. We can start chipping away at that, correct?
I'm comfortable with that.
Yes.
All right, so for now,
And the applications as well.
and the applications, so then, all right, so we did that.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the open space committee frequency of meetings be from 5:30 PM to 7:30 PM. At this time, one meeting a month.
Second?
Discussion? Vote, it's an aye?
Aye.
All right. All right, is there any public input?
Do we have anyone on for this?
Does no one else know?
Don't see anybody on, all right. Next up, we have the approval of minutes. We do have, unless anybody would like to chip in real quick, with kind of a conundrum where the members present do not meet quorum for those that were present in the time frame that we're trying to approve our minutes.
Well, we do have the last minutes, the last meeting that we had. You, myself, Donica were all here.
Correct.
So we do have a quorum for that one.
I did not prepare the minutes for that meeting, so.
That's okay, we can do that, so
we'll do
we'll put that on the next one.
Yeah, but
Okay.
at least we can do them because we did have a quorum.
And then there are 2 other meetings that I was waiting till we got through these minutes first, so we didn't have like a whole list of minutes to approve, but we have 2 more meetings of minutes to approve, which we're in the same situation where we don't have them.
I think if we had 3 of us present,
Yeah, I think we can approve February and March at this point, because I was a member by February, yeah,
Okay, so
I
February
interviewed
and
in
March were
January.
okay.
yeah,
So the situation we're in then is that, to suffice Mr. P. Higgins, is that we at least send a draft
I
to
can
Leanne.
reach out to him too and ask him how we could work through this conundrum. And
We could, yeah,
then I'll come back at the next meeting and say, the AG's office says we should go do this, and be good.
I'd like to make a motion that we table the approval of the minutes from December, October, and November of last year, as well as.
Point of
Jan-
order, just that you have to read the date.
My apologies, so I'd like to make a motion to approve tabling the open space committee regular meeting minutes of October 4th, 2023, November 1st, 2023, December 6th, 2023, at this time.
Second,
discussion quickly.
Yes, sir.
We're tabling those minutes for what reason? Because we did have a quorum and we did have a chair.
Because we did not have a quorum, and technically, and I believe it was, you had mentioned that we still don't have a quorum of people present at from that meeting. So like yourself and Danica may have been present, but 2 is not enough
I
to,
think Mr. Karen was present at a couple of those meetings.
He was.
Right, and we also had, when he wasn't, we still had Mr. Higgins.
so we would need,
So we still had 3 out of 5.
well, that's why we were hoping Peter would show up tonight.
Well, the issue is not that we didn't have quorum for those meetings. We don't have quorum now of people who were present at that meeting.
that time.
Yeah, I
And
just
that's-
wanted to clarify.
That will be
Okay.
the question that I will ask Mr. Higgins
Okay.
for ruling on. And I'm sure there's a way, I'm just not
So
sure.
the motion's on the table.
So the motion is on the table. Is there any other discussion? All right, let's call for a vote.
Okay.
Aye.
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 All right, so we table.
Would you like me to prepare the minutes for the next, well, we're very behind in minutes, but do we want to, like, is it too overwhelming to be approving 6 sets of minutes at the next meeting, or?
Let's
Like,
start
how do you
chipping
wanna
away
do
at it.
that?
Let's just line them all up if we can.
So just prepare all of them for
Yeah,
next meeting, just to
how-
get back at.
Yeah, let's
sorry, get
prepare
back on
what you've
track.
got, and then contingent upon the information that Mr. Hull finds out from Leanne tomorrow about what we need to do to set them up with, I
Yeah.
believe it's a draft is the bare minimum. And then we can move from there, if you're fine with that.
And maybe we can put that near the top of the agenda so that we get that
Yeah,
out of the way.
okay. All right, top of agenda. All right, I'm gonna, in the interest of time and respect of the committee behind us, I am gonna have to make a motion that we set our next meeting date at this time for June 5th, 2024 at 5:30 PM for the open space regular meeting, the open space committee here at the Primetime Building at 1059 Somerset Avenue in Dayton, Massachusetts. Is there a second?
So moved?
Mr. Chairman, you just want to make, touch base with Leanne, just to make sure we're always going to be on for that first Monday of every month, so we get back to our routine for 2 hours.
Okay. Is that,
That's what we were before on the first Monday of each month.
okay,
Yes.
so provided that that time slot's available, are we okay with that being our next meeting date?
Yes.
So we can go ahead and vote on that at this point
Yes.
then,
And
okay.
then consistency.
And if it's not, then we would then get that date from Leanne and cascade that out to the
Correct.
public.
Or find
Okay,
another location.
yeah, okay. So then we have that 5:30, 7:30. I believe we have to call for a vote at this time? Or did we already? No, we
Well,
didn't. I'm
you
sorry.
made the
I
motion.
made the motion.
I seconded.
Seconded, Lenny seconded, we had discussion, thank you.
Aye.
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 Alright, let's adjourn this meeting. Let's
Mr.
adjourn.
Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Aye, 5:59.
Is it second?
You know, on one hand, it seems, are we still on?
Good evening.
I don't know this fast enough. Hi.
Good evening.
You guys are.
Yeah, we're done,
We're
yeah, I
done.
just don't know how to turn this TV off
I
yet.
know.
You're probably gonna use it, right?
To go on Zoom.
Yeah, maybe we'll just end the meeting. Oh, it's like zoomed in, that's what the issue is.
So what's the matter?
John, just give me 5 minutes, I gotta hit the facility.
Sure, I'll take.
Mike, they're not meeting next door, are they?
No, we're coming.
Okay, good. So if I cut through, I'm not interrupting.
Take the rest of the papers. Rob, did you want to take the rest of the papers, or do you want me to take? I have my own ready.
I'll take them, I'll go ahead and clean them up for you, John.
So is someone gonna print materials for future meetings, like
Do you like that?
this?
The agenda, do you like that printed out?
Yeah,